Ich wollte es nur in Sicherheit bringen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Das ist wirklich Kapitel 25. Ja, sorry Marisch, lass mal. In der Lecture-Liste steht überall Kapitel 24. Das ist ja auch doof. Wir haben für einen anderen Vers vorbereitet. Ananda Krishna hat gestern in diesem Kapitel gesprochen. Ich dachte, er hätte sich geirrt, aber das darf nicht passieren. So we are reading in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the chapter 25, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service, text number 18. Da ist nicht noch ein Buch vielleicht für die Mataji? Versteht nur Englisch. Kein Internet. Jnana Vairagya Yuktina. Jnana Vairagya Yuktina. Bhakti Yuktina Chatmana. Bhakti Yuktina Chatmana. Paripashyat Yudasinam. Paripashyat Yudasinam. Prakriting Chahato Jasam. Prakriting Chahato Jasam. Jnana Vairagya Yuktina. Bhakti Yuktina Chatmana. Paripashyat Yudasinam. Prakriting Chahato Jasam. Ragya Yuktina. Bhakti Yogena Chatmana. Okay, ja, das ist schon besser. Jnana, knowledge. Vairagya, renunciation. Yuktena, equipped with. Bhakti, devotional service. Yuktena, equipped with. Cha, and Atmana, by the mind. Paripashyati, one sees. Udasinam, indifferent. Prakritim, material existence. Cha, and Hatha Ojasam, reduced in strength. Translation: in that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. Purport: as the contamination of the germs of a particular disease can influence a weaker person, similarly the influence of material nature or illusory energy can act on the weaker or conditioned soul, but not on the liberated soul. Self-realization is the position of the liberated state. I repeat, self-realization is the position of the liberated state. One understands his constitutional position by knowledge and vairagya, renunciation. Without knowledge, one cannot have realization. The realization that one is the infinitesimal part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit makes him unattached to material conditioned life. That is the beginning of devotional service. Unless one is liberated from material contamination, one cannot engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. In this verse, therefore, it is stated Jnana Vairagya Yuktena, when one is in full knowledge of one's constitutional position and is in the renounced order of life, detached from material attraction, then by pure devotional service, Bhakti Yuktena, he can engage himself as a loving servant of the Lord. Paripashyati means that he can see everything in the right perspective. Then the influence of material nature becomes almost nil. I repeat this. Paripashyati means that he can see everything in the right perspective. Then the influence of material nature becomes almost nil. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Brahmabhuta Prasannatma, when one is self-realized, he becomes happy and free from the influence of material nature. And at that time, he is freed from lamentation and hankering. The Lord states that position as Bhaktim Labhate Param, the real state of beginning devotional service. Similarly, it is confirmed in the Narada Pangsharatra that when the senses are purified, they can then be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. One who is attached to material contamination cannot be a devotee. Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yogena Chatmana Paripashyat Yudasinam Prakriting Chahatau Jasam. In that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. Srila Prabhupada refers mainly to this Bhagavad Gita verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatmana Shochati Nakangsati. Sama Savichavishu Bhuta Mat Bhaktim Labate Param. Sorry, I did not prepare. So, Kapila is speaking this verse to his mother, Kunti Devi. Devahuti, Kunti is the mother of, thank you, is the mother of the Pandavas. Kapilas is speaking to his mother, Devahuti. In this verse, he's speaking about this state which we try to attain, self-realization, free from ignorance and doubt. And how does one attain this position? By practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service. Just try to. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yogena. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti. Kennt ihr? Bhakti Yoga Prayojana Jana Yadya Shvai Ragyam Gyanam Chayata Haitakam. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojana. Simply by Bhakti Yoga, one automatically knowledge and a detachment from this world develop in the personality. Simply by performing devotional service, automatically these prerequisites for attaining self-realization will come up in the personality. Just by cleaning the floor, cooking, doing altar service, washing the pots, farming, just by performing one's activities consciously for the sake of Krishna, performing devotional service, all that is necessary for us will automatically develop, and we will come to this position of self-realization. Krishna says in Gita Bhaktyamam Abhijanati Yavanyashchasmitatvata. Only by devotional service can somebody understand me as I am. We are trying to perform. We're trying we are learning, we are supposed to learn, we are learning this process of devotional service. We are working on our attitude. When we chant our rounds, we try to chant consciously. We endeavor to chant nicely. Now, in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada writes, with great care and attention, one should dedicate oneself to Krishna consciousness and chant the holy name. With great care and attention. With great care means when we are chanting, we are very careful to pronounce every word clearly. And attention means to listen. We speak very clearly, we pronounce the whole mantra, and we listen what we are saying. No, Prabhupada says on this record, the first record that what is produced, Krishna consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the sound vibration, this consciousness is revived. When we hear this sound vibration, the sound so simple that one may neglect it, but that one may not take it seriously. But again and again, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about this. Again and again, Srila Prabhupada mentions it, hearing this sound vibration. There's a very nice quote also by Bhakti Charuswami. He speaks about this. When we listen to the holy name, when we hear the holy name, when we hear the Hare Krishna mantra, the holy name can enter through our ear into our heart and purify it, as is mentioned in this verse. Purifies our heart, our attitude gets purified. Now our attitude, mostly we are in ignorance and in illusion. In the material world, everybody is in ignorance and illusion. We fell into this material world because we are in illusion. We fell into illusion. I forgot. There's a nice verse in the Gita. As soon as the living entity falls into this material world, he gets in connection with the lower modes of material nature, and thus it becomes conditioned. We fell into this world, and now in the 3rd chapter of Gita, Prabhupada writes, the living entity is independent. So I quoted this several times already. Krishna is completely independent. The living entity also has a minute independence. But by the misuse of this independence, when the serving attitude turns into the desire for sense gratification, by the misuse of this independence, the love for Krishna turns into lust. Then our real connection to Krishna gets polluted, and we fall down into this material world and try to satisfy our senses. And again, we make the same experience. Again and again, we realize that this material world is not a place of enjoyment. Every learn from a tree to become tolerant. And Krishna is training us so that we can develop these qualities, this attitude to become tolerant. Whatever it is, so many things will happen in life. Birth, old age, disease, and death. We have to become prepared for these troubles, for these disturbances. If we look, whenever we have in my case, whenever I have a small cold, I become completely convinced that I am this body and completely in the bodily consciousness. If something happens to this body, immediately huge alarm, and we lose our attitude of trying to do something for Krishna. So Krishna, he's training us, he's trying to get us detached and flexible. Therefore these things happen. But he said Krishna only gives us tests which we can handle. He does not give us a test which we are not able to handle. It is said every moment in the life is perfect for developing Krishna consciousness. Krishna arranges our life like somebody may weave a carpet. Persons who are expert, they can make a carpet and weaving it in such a way that different patterns, different colors form different patterns. And Krishna, he is arranging our lives in such a way that the perfect pattern is formed. Such a way that our life will become, will enable us to, at the last stage of life, to leave this body, and so that we are able to think of Krishna at that time. Anti-Narayana Smriti. Yesterday, Ananda Krishna, he spoke about this. When we're young, we think that life is eternal. We are about 20 and something, or 40, and we think this life, it spreads endlessly. When we went to school, the summer holidays, in the beginning of the summer holidays, one thinks, oh, these summer holidays, whole month, endlessly, endless enjoyment. And then the time passes so quickly. And in this life also, the time passes so quickly. My body is 70 now. And the time passed so quickly. I didn't learn much, didn't develop much. Attached, ignorance, it's still there. And who knows? A nectar of instruction, Prabhupada writes, one should act in such a way as if this moment was the last one in our life. I don't think it will happen here, but in Munich there formerly the airport was near the city. One time, one airplane fell onto a McDonald's. Everybody inside got the instant karma. Everything was destroyed. It won't happen here, hopefully. Who knows what Nisringade's plans are? But, this is not a McDonald's. But who knows? Sometime we have to leave. We have to leave this body. This body is not our eternal home. It's not our rightful possession. The material nature arranged for this body by the order of Krishna. We are seated in this body, and they are all individual. They are all different. They all look different. We are all individual souls. It is said that every soul has one certain ability, one individual ability. Every one of us, every soul in this world and in the spiritual world can do something for Krishna that is unique, that only he can do. So Krishna, he is lacking. He needs us to perform so that we can perform our very unique service to him. We all look different. And the point was, this body the body we're living in, it is not our eternal home, it is not our legal possession, it does not belong to us, although we think so. And it is not meant for us to do with as we like. It is giving as a tool, as a vehicle like a car. It's giving to us so that we can learn something with it, so that we can develop our our proper attitude, so that we can use it in devotional service. Our mind, our intelligence, our body, everything should be used in the proper way. Prabhupada mainly refers to this verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannapmana Shoshati Naganshati Samasaveshu Bhutiti Bhutishu Mat Bhaktim Labate Param. By performing our activities in the proper mood, consciously, for the sake of Krishna, everything we do should be a service with love and devotion towards Krishna. That is the perfect life. When we are really absorbed in our devotional service, when we think about it, when we are busy in it, when we are enthusiastically performing our activities. Like there's this verse near these steps there, stone, and the parking lot. Manmana bhava mat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says, always engage your mind in thinking of me. How often do we think of Krishna? Not so easy. It's not so easy. But we have to develop it. Thinking of Krishna. It's not so difficult. It's not that we strain our mind. We simply chant Hare Krishna. We sing Hare Krishna. When we are walking somewhere, we just remember the Hare Krishna mantra. That is the way to think of Krishna. It's difficult for us maybe to constantly have the form of the Lord in front of us, in front of our mind. Wow. Huh? But it's very simple to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Kalya Dosha Nidhi Rajan. In almost every lecture, Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj, I think he's quoting this verse. This Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults and problems. But there's one, everything is bad. Everything is bad. But there's one good quality. Astyeka Mahat Guna, one good quality. And this good quality enables us to attain the highest perfection simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which is so simple that even a small child can do it. We are getting out of the lower modes. We can leave our bad attitude behind us and develop this desire for serving Krishna. Hare Krishna mantra, when we Krishna Kshetra, he writes in the Pancharatra Pradeep, in these orange books about deity worship, there's one chapter about performing one's devotional practices. Krishna Kshetra Swami, he compiled this book. There he writes, while chanting, one should also remember every now and then the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra. That we are praying to Krishna, to Radha Krishna, to Prahlad, Lakshmi, Nrsimhadev, so that they engage us in in devotional service. We are trying to form our consciousness from our present enjoying attitude to a attitude of performing devotionals, of service, to a service attitude. Change our enjoying attitude to service attitude. And Prabhupada writes, it is that's the natural propensity of a living entity. Material platform, it's a nobody hankers for being a servant. Everybody tries to be the Lord of everything. Therefore, we fell into this world. Krishna explains to Arjuna in the Gita, the demon thinks, Ishvaroham Mahang Bhogi. I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. And mainly, this is the attitude. That is the attitude why we fell into this world, and we developed this in our consciousness. But this is the wrong path, this is the wrong way. If the whole world would belong to us, then we would desire a second one. We will never be satisfied by whatever we get for our enjoyment. Chandamauli Swami, I also quoted this sometimes already. He said, he was sitting here, what do you think the suicides, in which class of society the most suicides happen? And amongst the poor, wretched, slum inhabitants, or with amongst the rich people. And yes, statistics shows that the most suicides do not take place among those who have nothing and who are suffering, but the most suicides happen in the so-called upper 10,000, amongst the rich people, amongst those people who seemingly have everything, every enjoyment in this material world, who can buy everything. But because people are stupid, they buy all kinds of stuff and all kinds of substances for enjoyment, narcotics, drugs, because one is never satisfied. These senses don't make us happy. Enjoyment of senses doesn't make us happy. And then people think, it must be possible, it must be possible. And they buy some drugs, and things are very different. And they think, oh, that's different. And again, try it again and again, and stronger stuff, and finally, boom, never happy, finally. That's the point. Our devotional service is changing our attitude from trying to enjoy this world, trying to enjoy the body, into the right perspective, as explained in this verse. In devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. It is not easy. Once a devotee came to Prabhupada and said, oh, Prabhupada, it's Krishna consciousness is so difficult. And you said it was so simple. Prabhupada said, yes, it is very simple, but it's not easy to renounce everything which since millions of lifetimes we thought we should achieve, to change this attitude into the complete opposite, giving up one's endeavors for oneself and performing one's activities for Krishna's sake is not easy. But here it says by knowledge and by renunciation, one develops this. By knowledge, when we hear about Krishna, when we hear about Krishna consciousness, we can reawaken our dormant love for Krishna. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Satya Kabunoi Shravanari Shuddhachiti Korayi Udoy. By the process of devotional service, the dormant love, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, the Krishna Prema that is in our hearts, this Krishna Prema, by the process of hearing and chanting, this Krishna Prema, our love for Krishna is reawakened. It is not so difficult. Krishna only gives us tests which we can handle, which we can pass. We have to endeavor, sure, but for ourselves, for our own sake, for our sense enjoyment, we would endeavor a lot. If we endeavor the same way for Krishna, like we endeavor for ourselves, for our body, then we would become pure devotees easily. We just have to go on. On Sankirtan, book distributors, sometimes as one is struggling and it's so hard. It's people blaspheme you or don't give any attention at all, just walk by. Still, one is suffering like anything. If you said the remedy is just go on. One should just go on performing one's devotional service. If we just go on, then Krishna, he will reward us. It is said sometimes Krishna wants to see what we do if we don't get any result, if we don't get any fruits out of our activities. There's a nice quote by one devotee in Switzerland. Now he is temple president in Langenthal. I heard this. He said, if the books go out, it's mercy for the conditioned souls. If the books don't go out, it's mercy for us. Then we learn when it's how's it go? The saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. When it gets difficult, when the going gets tough, when it's difficult, then we have to prove our determination. Then we have to show how we can handle this and how determined, how dedicated we are. Yeah. We should just go on, endeavor to perform our devotional service. We should just go on. We should never give up. Winners don't quit, and quitters don't win. That is also a nice statement. Winners don't quit, and quitters don't win. Einfach weitermachen. Just go on, Prabhupada says. We should just go on in our service, whatever happens. And then, finally, when at the end of this lifetime of training, and it's getting better all the time. Nobody knows this anymore. It was a Beatles song. Getting better all the time. And then Krishna consciousness is getting better. Aller Anfang ist schwer. Every beginning is difficult. But in Krishna consciousness, Krishna, he gives us taste again and again. When we make one step towards Krishna, He makes 100 steps toward us when we give our attention to Krishna and consciously try to please Him. Then Krishna is so happy by this, our attitude, that He rewards us, that that immediately we feel Krishna's pleasure. That immediately we become happy just by consciously endeavoring for Krishna. So we are supposed to not stretch the class. Ja, klar, Prabhupada once said, what you cannot say in 20 minutes, you will not be able to say in 2 hours. These statements in the books of Srila Prabhupada, they are so packed with nectar, so practical, so instructive. No. We can learn, and we should learn, and we want to learn from Srila Prabhupada by reading his books and by practicing what we have read. So, Selim, Bhakti Selim Prabhu. Yeah, often we realize that we have this attitude of enjoying the fruits of our activities. That's called the fruitive mentality. Fruchttragende Handlungen. Jemand hat mal eine Zeichnung gemacht. Fruchttragende Handlungen. Hand und Lungen und tragen Früchte. Fruchttragende. So the fruitive mentality. This makes sense only in German. This fruitive mentality, that's our disease, that's our material consciousness. It's just a matter of practice to remember again and again that we are meant to and that we want to perform bhakti yoga. We are here for performing bhakti yoga. Bhakti means loving devotional service. Service instead of becoming the Lord of everything we see. Service attitude. Humble, that needs humility. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in all humility. That needs humility to just become just a simple, small servant of Krishna. In the Gita, Krishna defines knowledge to Arjuna, and Krishna starts, the first ingredient of knowledge. What is it? In the Gita, Krishna defines knowledge. Different ingredients of knowledge. Which is the first? Bhakti Selim. Humility. Prabhupada always says humbleness, and it's right, it's nice. People in general, they say humility, humbleness, to be humble. That is the first part of knowledge. Knowledge starts with humility. Unless you're humble, you cannot accept real knowledge. Said if you want to pour water into a cup, the cup has to be below the bottle. Has to be lower than the bottle. Otherwise the water cannot flow into the cup. So we have to take a humble position. We have to take a humble position, a low position, to realize. We have to realize that we are low. We have to realize that we are so low. We are fallen. We are fallen souls, fallen in a fallen position. Not as we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be in the spiritual world, in the spiritual body, in the association of Krishna. And here we sit trying to say something, trying to listen, stay awake. We have every reason to be humble. We have if we realize our position, we should become very humble. And that is the beginning of making spiritual progress. When we realize the necessity, when we realize our fallen position, then slowly our knowledge awakens. Then we are able to accept knowledge. We should just go on practicing. When we again and again we see, yes, I want to enjoy what I'm doing, but we know it's not right. We want to perform our activities for Krishna, and we can again and again we can try to rectify our consciousness. Again and again we rectify our consciousness. Not for us, but for Krishna. Thinking of Krishna, acting for Krishna. The last weeks, advertisement, small advertisement. This afternoon there is again this pranayama session with Advaita Singha, learning how to breathe properly. I was there once only. Formerly, before Krishna consciousness, I was practicing pranayama a little bit. It was very good. And during this week, I realized often that I'm holding my breath, and that I'm breathing very low, that I don't breathe properly. No. That I don't use my body properly. When you don't breathe, the body doesn't work properly. Like a car, when it doesn't get enough gas, it doesn't work. So again and again I realized how I don't breathe properly, and then I consciously tried to breathe again, to breathe properly again. So we see our consciousness again and again and again and again. We try to act properly, just like breathing. It's very good. Try to go there again, learning how to breathe, such simple things, learning how to breathe. and we are also learning how to act properly. Danke für die Frage. Any other question? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.